It's Jay, and we want to do an overview of the nervous system. Humans have to respond to the environment in order to stay alive. We've got to cool our bodies if the temperature gets too hot, and we have to run away from dangerous animals. I'm probably going to die if I don't have my cup of coffee every day. I haven't done the experiment. The nervous system is divided into two different parts: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is everything else. If we look at the body, we'll have nerves traveling to and from virtually every different tissue. The cells responsible for executing the functions of the nervous system are called neurons. Each neuron has three different parts: a receptive portion that receives signals from the outside, an integrating center that figures out what to do with the signals, and an output projection that travels to target tissue. Usually, the receptive portion of the neuron and the integrating center will overlap. Neurons are divided into three different classifications: afferent neurons, efferent neurons, and interneurons. Afferent neurons are also called sensory neurons. They detect information from outside the CNS and deliver it to the CNS for processing. Afferent neurons can detect a sense of touch from the outside world, or special senses like sight and sound. There are a lot of other different senses we'll discuss in more detail later. Afferent neurons also monitor the internal environment in the body. They'll tell us, for example, what's going on with blood pH or blood pressure. After those signals arrive in the central nervous system, they're usually delivered to interneurons. Interneurons exist entirely within the CNS. They're typically grouped into collections of neurons that perform similar tasks. For example, we'll have a group of neurons involved in interpretation of visual signals. We have a different group of neurons involved in interpretation of touch. These collections of neurons talk to higher order groups of neurons that interpret the signals and figure out what to do. For example, let's say I'm feeling a warm, wet tongue as an animal licks me. If other senses tell me I'm being licked by a dog, my heart rate might drop and I would decide to pet the dog. On the other hand, if I detect that I'm being licked by a lion, hopefully I'd try to run away. That's another experiment I don't recommend trying. Efferent neurons are also called motor neurons, and they carry signals away from the central nervous system to target tissue that includes muscle and glands. To summarize this video, the function of the nervous system is to detect changes in the outside world, interpret those changes, and respond appropriately. Anatomically, the nervous system is divided into two parts: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is everything else. The cells responsible for carrying out those functions are called neurons. There are three classifications of neurons. There are afferent neurons, efferent neurons, and interneurons. Afferent neurons are sensory neurons that detect changes in the outside world and deliver them to the central nervous system. Interneurons interpret and process the information within the central nervous system, and then efferent neurons will carry signals to target tissue in the periphery that will execute those changes. If our nervous system isn't functioning well, we'll die. But as long as the nervous system can carry out those functions, we'll be able to live in the world as we desire, happy, healthy, and with a cup of coffee.